VEJRHØJ is an independent watch brand located in Copenhagen, Denmark, and they specialize in merging natural hardwood, stainless steel and Nordic minimalism to create watches that are what VEJRHØJ say is simple yet distinctive. They create quartz-powered and automatic watches for both men and women, with a number of designs ranging from the Knight, the Maple, Arch, the Rose, Sakura, Black and Gold, and this the A01. And they also offer petite versions of each with 34mm case diameters, but with the petite versions there is no automatic versions. And VEJRHØJ is called VEJRHØJ because their founder, Janus Arup, grew up next to the sea and by the high hillsides where VEJRHØJ lends its name from. And just to reiterate what was said in a very calm and peaceful 90-second spec, the A01 comes in at 11mm thick, 40mm in diameter. Now I measured 47mm lug to lug, 20mm at the lug, with this Italian leather strap tapering down to 17.5mm at the branded buckle. Now the case is 316L black gunmetal steel with a fairly high polish. It's fairly straightforward in shape, with nothing overly complicated such as chamfered edging, nor weird shapes or quirky design aesthetics, just pure and simple, and I think we'll find that minimalistic theme more and more as we explore this watch further. For me, I really do like that gunmetal. It is highly polished and is therefore prone to the odd fingerprint, and with this being black gunmetal, those fingerprints will show up more, but overall, that case colour for me perfectly complements this dial in particular. You have a push-pull crown here at 3 o'clock, not signatured, and again very simple, very straightforward and not overly complicated. Now I measured the crown in at dainty 4.9mm, and just to note that this VEJRHØJ A01 has waterproofing up to 3 ATM or 30 meters, so not fantastic if you wanted to take this diving in the deep blue or swim with dolphins in the Pacific Ocean, but perfectly fine to tolerate the wet in everyday use. Now onto that dial. I mean, where do I start? Perhaps I'll start at the moment I took the A01 out of its box, which I might just add right here and now is a fantastic custom crafted wooden box, which very much adds to that whole Nordic experience in my opinion. It really is the perfect way to receive a watch like this, and I really do like it. But anyway, back to that dial. For me, everything contained underneath that crystal represents everything I want in a Nordic minimalistic watch to contain. Everything just fits in perfectly. You have a circular brushed gunmetal dial, which I don't know if it's just me, but has a very slight copper tinge to it, with the brushing on that dial not overdone but subtle enough to make a statement for itself, and something which catches the light absolutely beautifully. The rectangular hour markers are engraved into that stunning dial, revealing a gold underlay which again catches the light absolutely perfectly, and the minute markers are printed very thinly onto that dial in gold. You have the applied logo under the 12 in gold, quite dominant in my opinion, but perfectly balanced between the 1 o'clock and 11 o'clock hour markers, and that dominance of that gold logo takes absolutely nothing away from how minimalistic this watch tries to be. The hour and minute hands are skeletoned and very interesting in terms of shape. They really do have that skeletonized dagger feel to them, with a seconds hand, a lovely lollipop hand, and all three in gold offering absolutely spot on legibility. The tip of the hour hand is a good few millimeters from the inside edge of the hour markers, and the tip of the minute hand perfectly clips the hour markers, whilst the circular element of the lollipop seconds hand falls nicely at the inside edge of the hour markers too. Also note here that a date complication at the 3 in white with the numeral in black, and I'm on the fence, but let me know what you think of that date complication at the 3 o'clock in the comments below. Does it detract from that stunning dial, or are these date windows so ingrained into what we're used to seeing with watches like this that, well, it doesn't really matter that it's there? So now, as we work outwards of that fantastic dial, we come to a gunmetal chapter ring, nicely sloped towards it and containing numerals at every 5 minutes. Now when designing this, my guess is that there was perhaps a temptation to keep this chapter ring fairly minimal, but actually the decision to have numerals at every 5 minutes does take nothing away from its minimalistic properties, in my opinion anyway. Like I say, that chapter ring slopes away nicely from that dial into what is obviously the main feature of this watch, and a feature that I personally think is beyond breathtaking, and that is the natural walnut wood. Now, there's not much I can say about this feature other than that it stands for everything about VEJRHØJ's ethos as a microbrand, and I think you'll agree that the natural walnut wood really is a showstopper. The strap is an Italian black genuine leather strap, again fairly straightforward, nothing overcomplicated here like contrasting stitching, just a fairly decent strap with quick release spring bars, and I say fairly decent as, well, as much as I love everything about this watch, the leather took a little while to settle into my wrist shape, so you may have to be a little bit more patient than usual, as the break-in period may take a little bit longer than perhaps other softer leather straps that you've been used to. But like I mentioned, it has quick release spring bars, which for me is always a positive. It tapers down from 20mm at the lug to 17.5mm at this lovely gold signatured buckle. The movement is a Miyota 8215 movement, Miyota's signature standard mechanical movement, 21 joules, 21,600 beats per hour, 42 hours of power reserve, hand windable, this version having hacking seconds, so all around not a bad movement, but one may question the decision not to use one of Miyota's more premium 9000 series that may give this more of a sweeping and smoother lollipop feel around that beautiful dial, but for me, not being much of a movement snob, dare I say, I don't actually care. That movement is all showcased behind this exhibition screw down caseback. Now personally, I love exhibition casebacks. The gold balance wheel as ever sat under that purple jewel never ceases to amaze me. I think though that with a watch such as this, I would have perhaps branded that rotor, I don't know. All the same, it still looks awesome, and it also contains some spec on the outer part of that caseback, including the serial number, and bearing in mind that the first production round of the A01 is limited to 400 pieces, so you'll get your individual serial number stamped right here on the caseback. On my 7.5 inch wrist, it wears, well, what can I say, it wears really nicely, and it looks fantastic. The leather will, in time, soften nicely, so I don't think I'll try and replace this strap. I think this is perfectly fine. It feels nice and light on my wrist too, and I weighed it in at 72 grams, so a decent weight all round. Now that walnut wood really is, as I say, a showstopper, and something that really gives this watch true distinction. Might sound a bit daft, but you can see the texture of that wood very clearly from as far away from my eyes as my wrist goes. It's not a feature that only really makes itself known when you're really close up, so will definitely be noticeable by others when you're in the office or out and about with mates at a restaurant, for example. And speaking of which, I wore this watch with jeans and a hoodie around the Northwood trail, and it felt very much like it belonged on my wrist in casual attire. Now at the same time, it works perfectly well with a cuff for more formal attire too, so you definitely get versatility with the A01. In terms of cost, the A01 comes in at 445 United States dollars, which is around about 350 UK pound sterling in today's market, with this the A01 being their premium model, but a Miyota 2025 quartz model is also available if you like this design but prefer the more affordable price of 220 USD or 175 squids. The quartz edition having similar specs in terms of dimensions, but with it housing a quartz, is much thinner at 7.25mm as opposed to 11mm, and also note that the wood in the cheaper quartz version is cherry wood as opposed to the, for me, more attractive and more premium natural walnut wood. Now the awesome guys at VEJRHØJ sent me both to keep in my watch box, and I must say that if I were to invest, I'd probably double up that outlay and most certainly go for the A01 automatic. Yes, you might hope for a more premium movement to power it up, but honestly, there's so much more to this watch than simply how it moves. Overall, nothing, and I mean nothing, that may niggle me about this watch, be it the movement or the strap, will ever turn me off what I see as a magnificent face of this watch. Even with this white date complication, it just works for me. The circular brushing on the dial is the perfect texture to ripple out into that gorgeous natural walnut wood that surrounds it. For me, that earthy feel of the wood is glammed up by the gold, and those hour markers really add something elegant to the overall face of this watch. So back to my watch box, and gone is that frustrated figure simply because whenever I want something new that isn't overly complex or something that offers me zero functionality other than to tell the time, I can reach out for this A01, and whilst it'll offer me Nordic minimalism in every sense of the word, it'll also offer me so much more. Good morning, A01.
A Lamborghini, another Lamborghini. Ooh, these are more Lamborghinis. No. I just want a fat place instead. Stabilizes it. There you can tell. I know, those swords are quite cool.
Zach.
Do you like the smell? It's like nice. Too small. Oh, it's nice. No. There. I like it. Okay. I like the physicist. They are.
drink.
I actually just keep tasting until it's